So I figured today I would sit down and kind of talk a little bit about how everything went at the 2024 Pan American Games, or Pan American Extreme, here in Orlando, Florida. So luckily it was a local trip. Kind of want to talk a little bit about how the match was, how I did, and some of the things that I had to go through at this match. So the first things first is congratulations to Mason Lane for absolutely smashing us all. He did really, really well. I think the guy shot 1 delta for the entire match. He played the game correctly, that's for sure. He knew how to, he shot really, really well, on top of understanding how the scores worked. Something that I definitely will be working on. I'm going to have to do a little bit better job understanding some math here. But I didn't shoot I never shot anything faster than I should. It was just whether I executed those points is kind of how it worked out. Also, congratulations to JJ, again, beating me. I'm trying. These guys are really good. And you got to be pretty darn close to perfect. I mean, JJ wasn't perfect. He made some of his own mistakes as I did. My mistakes were just bigger. And Mason just shot really, really well. That guy just, I think he shot pretty damn near perfect. I'd be interested to see what he thinks about his performance. But so the match in itself was really, really great. I was probably one of the best IPSC matches I've been to. The way they ran the match this year was definitely better than last year. But last year was kind of the first coming off of COVID stuff, so it was a little more difficult. A lot of people that were signed up last year didn't come. This year, they definitely did not have a sold-out match. They had an entire 10 stages that weren't being shot at all during the match. So in other words, there's 30 stages. You shoot them in 3 blocks of 10. I personally shot the stages of 11 through 20. And then the next day was 21 through 30. And then the day after the final day, which was yesterday on Saturday, we finished the match and I shot 10 through 9. So we went 10 to 9, how we did it. But very, very good stages. There's obviously some things about IPSC I'm not a huge fan of. I think I've kind of expressed some of those things, but I love shooting and I really did enjoy this match. This match was, I think the problem mainly with IPSC, in case you guys don't know and you're just now seeing the videos that I do, is that I don't like that they're forced to have a bunch of small courses of fire. There's a lot of 60 round stages or 60 point stages, and you really can't gain points or separation. You're like, I don't know, I won 7 or 8 stages at this match, and I think I gained at the most 10 points, which is a lot against those guys. But the majority of the stages, I won 1 point. I gained a point. I gained 2 points. It's just because you can't go fast and gain enough points versus the guy who can shoot all alphas. If you shoot 1 Charlie, I lost the stage high overall this weekend because I shot a single Charlie. I was faster by, half a second or whatever it was. It was quite a bit of time, and I lost because of the alpha. So it was quite interesting to kind of sit down and look at the math. And of course, I never shoot a Charlie on purpose. It just happens. It's kind of how it works. But you just realize sometimes when you're shooting this type of a style of a match that alphas are king, and your time is secondary, and it's going to have to stay secondary in your mind. But it's not easy when you especially like myself, who's new to the sport and especially to IPSC. I don't really understand how the math, the importance of the math yet. I'm getting there. Every match I learn, like, oh, okay, I see how that guy played it, or this guy paid attention to it. So I start to pay attention more to those things. Again, I'm just trying not to screw up. That's like the first thing I think of when I go to shoot now. I had some round issues, like I didn't know how to count at this match, and those were the things that killed me. I had 4 stages that really hurt me. I had 4 standing reloads because I didn't have visual patience on those 4 stages, and those were spread out throughout 30 stages, right? So there's a lot of stages to keep your head right, keep straight, keep everything going the right direction, and they don't always happen. It's not always easy to keep your mind right and stay in that zone. I was pretty locked in for this match, but I will tell you, I've had some injuries before this match, and I took some time off from working out, and I absolutely felt it on day 2. Well, I guess day 3. Day 2 I was good because we shot in the morning, but day 3 I really felt it. I felt the physical or the lack of physicality that I would usually have when I'd been working out very, very hard. So I'm excited to say that I felt great at this match. I physically felt okay. I had a little bit of a pain, with the injury at the beginning of the match, but stretched it out, got worked out. Everything was great. Ready to rock and rolled. Shot very well. It's probably the best match I've shot with, not the best results. So I'm really, really happy with how I shot. I stayed super aggressive. I found myself. I found the way I like to shoot, and I was willing to live with my results no matter what. So I was really, really happy with how I attacked. I definitely put the pressure on this match that I've never felt like before. I put some pressure on those top guys. I felt like I was somebody they had to watch this time. Now, whether they do or don't, that's not what I'm saying. But I feel like I was close enough to win the match. Mason didn't make any mistakes, but the few mistakes JJ made, I pushed pretty hard without going over that edge like I used to. And I put some real pressure on that second place finish. And on day 3, I was extremely close to him midway through the day. And then I just had 2 stages that kind of fell apart. Again, my fault, no one else's fault. It's I did it. I just lost my mental during the stage. I'd shoot 3/4, hell, 95% of that stage awesome. And then I just started throwing rounds for whatever reason, and it just fell apart. But that's kind of how it works in a sport, right? You have to be locked in at all times for every bullet. Every bullet is accounted for when you shoot, whether it's visually or the timing of the trigger, whatever it is. Those 2 rules are what give you permission to shoot. And I definitely fell off pretty hard on that first rule in quite a few stages at this match. My accuracy at this match was some of the best I've ever had, so I'm extremely happy with that. I focused very, very hard on the fundamentals before I got to this match. I would say the only thing that I would change before I got to the match was I did not have enough time to really practice. I only had, I think, 6 or 7 hours, and that's split up between 2 days. 3 hours, 4 hours on one day, 3 or 4 hours on the next day. I would really like more practice, and I think I would have been a lot more locked in when it comes to the actual accuracy part. My day 3 accuracy was good on some things, bad on some. I had a couple stages where I had 8 Charlies, and I had shot 8 Charlies in the entire match on one stage. So it was wild that all of a sudden day 3, I kind of lost it. But those were the stages that I made those big mistakes and weren't counting the rounds. So obviously, the reason I was getting Charlies and making makeup shots is because I wasn't fundamentally sound on those. It almost always goes back to your fundamentals. That's just the way this sport is. And honestly, it's a great thing that the fundamentals, you always go back to those, because if you just pay attention to them, you can fix a lot of mistakes in the middle of the match. And I did that. I had a stage where I shot a ton of Charlies. I think it was stage 1, which was on day 3. I think I shot 6 Charlies, and I was like, that's terrible. Like, everything was right on the edge of the A. It wasn't like some wild grip. I was just on the edge of the A. So for the next 2 stages, I won high overall on those stages in CO. So then I go to the next stage and I just bomb because I stopped, I don't know, I guess focusing on the fundamentals. It's like one of those things where you cannot take time off. You cannot slack off against these really, really good top shooters. They just don't make a lot of mistakes. So I'm noticing that my performance is up higher, my mistakes are down, but they're still there. So I think every time I go to a match, I learn something. This match, I learned a lot about what it feels like on those stages when I make the mistakes before I even start. I had a pretty big distraction before one of my stages, and I let it bother me, or I just let it take my brain off of what I was supposed to be doing. So I'm going to now process that. I'm going to try to do anything and everything I can to simulate these things in practice and be interrupted, so that while I'm on that make ready or while I'm trying to process, if something happens, I can go back, block it out, and refocus again and get back to that level of focus, or being in that zone, as I would call it, to really crush that stage again. And then it's just execution, just following through with all the practice, all the reps, the thousands of hours of my brain thinking about this. Just get back to that and just execute. It's really that simple. All right, so the last thing. There's something, I don't know how many guys talk about this. I honestly don't think a lot of the top guys even talk about this. But it's something that I feel like we are missing in this sport, or not the sport, that we're missing in kind of the community, and talk about this. A lot of guys don't talk about this stuff. But to me, I had Eric Rafael and JJ Racaza behind us every single stage, right? They followed us. They were in the squad behind us. And 99% of the time, JJ got to watch how I shot, watch what I shot, and he had an advantage there because he was able to see how I shot it. Whether he was worried about me or not, he was able to kind of see what I did, see if I did stage plans different, and all those kind of things. So obviously they're behind me, and they're shooting a stage that I've already shot. So I really didn't get an opportunity to watch them, shoot, or if they changed the stage plans or whatever it was. So I just want to talk a little bit about the pressure that comes with having your competition behind you, and kind of how I dealt with it. So for me, it's very easy because I don't ever let someone else's run or scores or anything affect me. It just doesn't bother me. I've gotten to the point now in shooting where it doesn't matter what they do, right? Like JJ, Mason, Christian, all these guys are amazing shooters, but I don't control their shooting, right? Jacob Hetherington, Nils, like, you shoot with these guys and it's another level of mental game, right, that they have. So it's like you cannot allow someone else's scores, and I see this a lot in my students and other people that shoot a lot, especially as you go down the ranks, you start to see the different levels of how other shooters and scores affect those shooters and their results. So the issue is their results are falling off because they're focusing on what someone else did the day before, the day after, a couple days before you even got there. You're looking at these scores and like, oh man, I got to chase this guy or whatever it is. So at no time in my shooting was I ever able to go to JJ and say, hey bro, I'm going to do this. Good luck, or plant a seed of doubt, or go up to Mason and go, bro, you're going to lose. There's none of that in this sport. You shouldn't do that anyway. That's kind of a dick move. But there is none of that no matter what JJ says to me or Eric says or any of these guys, they can't get me to shoot better or worse, because the only thing that controls your shooting is you. The only thing that controls my shooting is me. The only time that the scores matter is after we've both shot it. That's it. That's just my opinion. I can't change your shooting. Now, is there a reason to look at scores so that you can judge on how you need to shoot it? Absolutely. 1,000,000%. Absolutely. I think there is some value to that. To know, all right, cool, I'm up 80 points. I don't need to push here. I just need to execute and do my job. But you should be doing that anyway. But you can kind of understand, like, all right, I don't have to take this 25-yard steal on the move or a no shoot on the move or whatever it is. So there's a lot of things that you can do and go into and use those things as a benefit. But I see a lot of people making those mistakes and allowing other shooters that aren't even, hell, I see this where people who aren't even shooting against them allow their stage runs to mess them up and make mistakes because they're following what somebody else told them, or they saw someone else ramp something up and do something that they weren't ready to execute themselves. So again, you have to pay attention to all of those little things about the pressure and not allow that pressure to affect your shooting. The only person that puts pressure on you or changes your shooting is you. So if you remember that, it makes dealing with the best shooters in the world a hell of a lot easier. All right, guys, if you have any questions, hit me up in those comments, and I'll see you on the range.